Hi everyone, welcome to Stormy Goat Tarot. My name is Kat. Thank you so much for tuning in to this collective soul reading, I guess is just what I'm going to call it. I hope everybody had a really happy Halloween, Samhain, whatever sacred day you choose to celebrate at the end of fall. This particular frame of time is always very, very sacred to me, just as far as transitioning from October into the rest of November and into the kind of end of the year. Um, it really calls on honoring that which has been ancestors, those who have passed, and even kind of on the micro level within our own lives, just kind of reflecting on things that may no longer be with us as far as things we used to do, things we used to partake in, people who used to be in our lives, and really reflecting on why those things needed to fall away and where we're at now and what we have to look forward to in sitting in our new selves and sitting in kind of our new shells, so to speak, and where we're moving forward in that. So it's a very regenerative time. It's a very scorpionic time. It's kind of the hallmark of Scorpio season for me. And then everything really takes off creatively, really within myself as well. I've mentioned before that I get a lot done during Scorpio season. It's a really productive time for me. So I'm looking forward to just what this reading is going to bring. I have a lot in front of me, and we're just going to kind of dip into what comes up. I know that when I was channeling this energy, and I'm going to be looking a little on a few notes that I've taken, there was a big emphasis on a change in perspective or a transformation of how we process, how we take on tasks, responsibilities, obligations, and really where that thought process comes from, really identifying the source of of the pressure of certain things that we've adopted, where that pressure comes from and why we feel it. There's also a lot of physicalness coming up too, as far as materialism goes, and kind of what we identify in the things that we own. How in some ways what we own owns us in the sense that we identify levels of success, posture, posterity in what we own. And the thing is that all changes, doesn't it? What does mean something to us during one season of our lives can pass into another, and we have a different set of attitudes, a different way of thinking, a different way of going about things, and in honoring ourselves and those around us and honoring our lives. So really there was an emphasis on just taking stock of how the material plays out in your life. Do you surround yourself with things in order to have identity, or do you identify with what you bring into your life physically? And physically can also mean, it doesn't have to be material objects or even like luxuries or riches. It can mean people. It can mean media. Whatever you bring and adopt into your sphere. And to understand that the dedication and what stays is the journey we're on, is our path that we move through, whether we're aware of it or not. That's what stays constant. Anything else that's material can fall away at any time. So why make that a part of our identity? Alrighty. So that's kind of just how I wanted to preface this. I also have a couple of announcements, but I'll save that towards the end. Let's start with some soul cards for a soul reading. Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, angels, so very much. I'm truly grateful for all messages received. What are collective messages, or messages to the collective that needs to be known at this time? Just saw a new moon. This new moon in Scorpio is going to be a potent one. It's going to be pulling on a lot of different energies and transits that are taking place. What are messages for the collective at this time? Alrighty, let's see here. This one has come up a lot before, this peering out into the world and seeing reciprocity. How about that? It's normal to have the separate life separate. The inner quiet space that we feel no one needs to know, that can't be shared. And especially now that conditions, depending on where you live, of course, and just how COVID regulations and things like that relate, and that'll apply how it applies, again, depending on where you live. It is a time where we are kind of resurfacing, showing up in a different way. Understanding that there can be synthesis of being and ideas. And that to truly be isolated, to be alone, the anguish of being alone, I'm hearing. The individual can be celebrated into the collective. The collective isn't here to strip you of identity, of thought. Unity does not mean that your voice doesn't matter. You're joining your voice, celebrating with others, honoring that with others. There's a desire to keep the self to the self, but so much pain has occurred that way. My problems are my own. My troubles are my own. My pain is my own. Wouldn't it be nice if when we had those moments that there were arms to receive us? That others could relate with us, as opposed to feeling shunned, feeling weak. And in shying away from unity and solidarity, we're only wilting ourselves. Beautiful message, beautiful message. Let's keep going. What other messages for the collective spirit? I blended my Whispers of Lord Ganesha and Kusene Oracle deck. That's why it's kind of clunky and big. What other messages for the collective, please, Spirit? What else does the collective need to know? What else does the collective need to know, Spirit? What other messages are coming through? Please show me clearly. Delight. Spiritual practice. Like enjoying what you see, or seeing belonging. There we go. This also calls to not utilizing spiritual practice, spiritual ideas, ideation, schools of thought, not using that to gatekeep others, to repel others. And this is seen in all circles, not just that of traditional or what we in spiritual circles refer to as conventional religion. We can be just as guilty of it. Everyone's truth is their own truth. No one's obligated to adopt it, to believe it. And really, it isn't anyone's place to say what is valid and what is not, as far as path goes. Because it's kaleidoscopic, isn't it? It truly is kind of the analogy of the elephant, where the 3 or 4 different blind men feel the different parts of the elephant and really get a true picture of what an elephant actually looks like. To some, it's the stockiness of the legs. Others, it's the elasticity and malleability of the trunk. Others, it's kind of the rope-like qualities of the tail. We all are given a different piece of the puzzle, a different scope to view. And that's meant to be discussed, talked about. Much of our wisdom now is borrowed. It came to us from another time, other individuals, other works that existed before us. We're passing on the story with our own personal gnosis and truths. And it's important to keep in mind that another person's scope is not necessarily wrong. Another point of view is not necessarily wrong, even if it sharply conflicts with your own. Sometimes another point of view is only to show and verify within yourself how not to be, where not to go. Because trust me, I'm not saying, this is not me sitting here saying that every single opinion and point of view is righteous or valid. But there's been a huge acceptance of what's seen, what we're made to feel. I'm seeing, not even just in feeling, but what we're made to feel. That's acknowledged and realized. Others' truths are their truths, and your own is your own. And they both have a chance of being right. Do I want to go tarot or keep going with this? Let's keep going with this. Right, yes. Any other messages? Born with a call. And a time to walk alone. There is a call to act, a call to accomplish. And again, it's with our own individual task, our own individual power, our own calling. But to understand that a time to walk alone is not the same as a call or demand to be alone. Even when we're in our most somber points, whether that be in reflection, whether that be in contemplation, meditation, sad, happy, angry, sad. I said sad already. Come on, Catherine. Serious or entertaining, or just entertaining thought. Even if you're all by yourself, Spirit, God, Source is with you. And while your individual, if you are kind of the belief that everyone has a call to action, a purpose, while that may all be different, it all contributes to this whole. It's still valid, it has value, it's valuable. Okay, moving to the tarot now. What messages are there for the collective at this time, Spirit? Thank you so much for all of your messages thus far. Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, angels, so very much. Such an emphasis on unity. I really wasn't expecting this to go in this direction. Whoop. Eight of Pentacles and Eight of Swords. There's a release from obligation, or what we've told are obligations, particularly surrounding work. And not even the work that that's an interesting phrase. I'm hearing the work that is worthy. All work serves a purpose. How can we look upon someone who performs a task that ultimately goes above and beyond them, that provides service to others, and say that that's not good enough? We've attached importance, titles, accolades to professions, to ideas, to forms that embody the idea of success, and have completely ignored the steps taken or the journey to those things. We want only the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, not the adventure that it takes to get there. And even when we receive those things, if the proper work hasn't been done, then the true value of those rewards cannot be received. Not fully. Let's go further. Let's go further. What other messages for the collective at this time, please? That the reclamation of family, of happiness, of that joy, and the ways that we haven't been fostering that, haven't premiered that, haven't allowed it to grow, but we've demanded it to. We've planted seeds and let entire gardens grow corrupt and wild because we weren't paying attention to the conditions or requirements before we even reached that point. It's created an inability to follow through in completing our own cycles, and even produced a lack of faith that we can. And yet we're confronted with this again and again and again. This Knight of Pentacles, which in reverse to me is a very dilly-dallying energy, a very not focused energy. Lack of focus. Lack of focus, lack of focus. Yet he's looking at what's blocking him. And at a standstill because he doesn't want to face it. Moving on to Tarot of the Abyss. Just kind of switching through decks at this point. What other messages for the collective, please, Spirit? What other messages for the collective, please, Spirit? What are messages that the collective needs to hear most? We're not making the assessments we need to. There's still a desire to trust in the illusion. It was there for us once, it'll be there for us again. Except that everything's changing. To exist is to change. And soon we won't be able to look away. We won't be able to stop seeing. Came out in a blocked position. I'm going to go with it because it's the drive of the individual, the assurance that the individual can take on anything and everything on their own. That if we learn enough, if we gain enough materially, whether that's money, property, abundance of any kind in the physical, if we just are enough, we can do it all on our own. It's a very isolating experience, don't you think? Oop. Then we have the isolation card, the Hermit. But even the Hermit is, in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, this staff, or this, what the Hermit is fixated on is the lantern. And in the lantern is the star. In this version of the Hermit, the old woman's looking at the staff turning into a snake. Reflections on old wisdoms. What old lessons taught you, whether you've done the work or if you haven't, in remembering the path that you've taken to get here. It was not for nothing. It will never be for nothing. The star in reverse. Because we are constantly told that our wishes can't come true. That if you're standing on your own, you are not broken. Because you're doing everything yourself. Four of Cups in reverse. When really you're not heeding the call. To build with others in order to build yourself. True, the self has to be defined in some way. And I'm not saying to give over completely to group thinking or to any one person that may have that kind of power over you. Okay. Then we have the Page of Swords, the Wise One or the Hierophant in reverse, and the Knight of Wands. Being ready to move forward on a new adventure, to think for ourselves. And the acknowledgement that what we may have been told is not wholly true. And this doesn't, because I don't want to invoke a sense of paranoia or a disbelief as a whole. There are plenty of other people who can propagate that for you to make you afraid. And I'm not saying to be afraid in the face of it, but the Knight of Wands going forward shows to light your own way, to be self-motivated, to instigate. To take the materials, the facts, the information that is out there, and to evaluate it, temper it. To discern what truly is the truth from what is false. And if the false is what is making the headway, making the headlines, at the forefront of people's minds, why that may be, investigating that. Very investigative with this. All right, switching it up. Let's see what other messages. Any other messages for the collective? Any other messages? Any other messages for the collective, please? Again, there's so much emphasis on the individual. Not in the sense or the same feeling of how in Western society, because I'm located in the United States, so how the main drive, the main push is to develop the self in the mirror of the whole. Kind of seeing it as like this gray particulate in the spiral here. Let me kind of hold this closer so you can see. Because how society demands is you should give of yourself for the whole. That what doesn't fit, you should cast out, abandon. It draws energy from you. It takes energy from you without giving anything in return. Well, this heartfelt energy, this beautiful melon green with that peachy pink, it's the restoration of you, the healing of you. Maybe you saw what could be taken away from you, and maybe you did in fact lose it at some point. You can reclaim it. It's not too late. You're not lost. Whatever you felt you lose, or whatever you felt yourself lose, is not lost. Let's keep going. Any other messages for the collective, please? Whoop. Ready? Sweet. We were designed to create from our heart space. Put this over here. The same mindfulness about what we bring into our lives and the emphasis that it does truly affect us, even if we feel desensitized to things like violence, like the graphicness of some of our media. Because desensitization is somewhat of a symptom that we are cut off from our centers. Because the stimulation is too much, because the hurt is too much. And at the end of it, we're just wounded children. Who have this void space to create, and instead it feels like an empty hole. Because so many sources are cramming their own messages down our throats. And we're made to feel that our own is not significant. It's not visible, not viable. Nobody would ever think to do that or think to expose themselves to that. It's not marketable, it's not catchy, it's not consumable. It's almost as if the entire galaxy, though, is contained within that void space. In which case, you are not empty, you're infinite. That's going to be the title of this reading. And that the dreams that we once had access to, perhaps as a younger person or a young child, the way that we were all taught to reach for the stars before the counter message of, no, you need to fall in line with what you're made to do, what you're made for. In believing in the possibility of us. Not letting the possibilities direct us. I'm liking this a lot. Okay. What other messages are there for the collective, please, Spirit? This one's spelled right out of the deck. Openness. Question. This card comes with a question. If there was a way for your whole life to be different, 3838 on the counter, I saw. If there was a way for your whole life to be different, to change, and the universe was just open to giving it to you, would you take it? And maybe let me reframe that question because I don't like the fact that I phrased it that way. Would you be open to doing the work required to accept it? To clearing out the maladaptive behaviors, the things that no longer serve, the things that have never been you, but that you've used as a mask to move through life in compliance. The gifts that we have in store for us, oftentimes we can't even imagine. And yet we want them to come to us perfectly, serendipitously, every single time. So even when we're not expecting, we're expecting. Because I know how a miracle should be. I'm worthy of it. I deserve it. When the work is done, you shall receive. And to be open to the universe, open to that void. What other messages are there, Spirit, for the collective at this time? On this All Souls Day is... Whoop. Call forth the waves and hope. There's so many cards on the board that I'm just weaving them into everything. Hope. Also notice this little guy must have dropped on the floor when I had the Rider-Waite. 9 of Wands. Getting waiting your turn with that a lot. Waiting for readiness. We don't get to decide when we receive our blessings. It's decided when we reach that mark in the journey. And even if you knew or didn't know that that what you were receiving wasn't actual physical abundance, wasn't a paper check, wasn't a brand new car, wasn't a brand new home that just was wrapped up and put nicely in your lap, would you still want to receive that blessing? If it meant that your whole life could change, but what you were receiving was not a tangible physical thing, would you still make the way to receive it? Even if it meant giving up something material. Because it wasn't and isn't for you. It's food for thought. Alrighty. Let's go. Any more messages, Spirit, for the collective? Any more messages for the collective, Spirit? Any more messages for the collective, Spirit? Nope. It still matters more for us to be petty. 5 of Swords came out in the blocked position, indicating that this is what's standing in the way. How can we rest? How can we reconfigure? How can we recover if we're continually biting off more than we can chew? Fighting other people's battles for us or for others. Any other messages, please, Spirit? When really what's important is to sit with the heart, understand what the heart needs are, and that's going to vary from person to person. No one should be considered a failure because they need the rest. Mind, body, or heart. Just because there's this normative of working XYZ hours a day per week. Realization and adoption that that is not everybody's truth. Wow, I said truth. Truth. That's not their alignment. Okay. Getting called to stop with that one. Bottom of the deck is Four of Swords. Meditation, contemplation with that, not just rest. Okay, I think last cycle with the Tarot of the Abyss, and we'll conclude this. Any other closing messages for the collective, Spirit? Anything that the collective needs to know? Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, angels. Please. The world in reverse. And the world cannot change if we do not change. The sun in reverse. We cannot go on pretending to be happy. We can't be happy in the same ways as we used to. Changing. Ace of Swords. I know that there's a lack of clarity. There's a lack of clarity in how that new way is. It was a huge snap and crack from the deck. We have Eight of Wands in reverse, being told to stay still until what in the blocked position? Eight of Pentacles, until we do our own work. The work that we were meant to do, not the work that we're told to do. Five of Wands, to stop fighting that. Queen of Cups again with the Ten of Cups again. To take heart, keep heart, not being afraid to be vulnerable, and not being afraid of admitting that you're happy. That even if this new dawn does frighten you, because it means change, that you're returning to the home center of yourself. Building a home within you. Bottom of the deck with that, we have 10 of Pentacles, double 10. That's the longevity. That's the legacy, is us. Not what we have. Alrighty, guys, that is the reading. It was very impromptu. I definitely wanted to do a reading that was kind of Halloween-ish, or just kind of with how I feel about this time of year. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this was insightful. I hope this resonated in part. I know that there were kind of a lot of different things going on just with what I was picking up and also what I was reading. So I hope, again, that this was helpful. Comment down below if you'd like to see more impromptu readings like this, or just how you think that they should be structured, or kind of in line with kind of the season, if you'd like to see kind of more seasonal transitory readings that go from like season to season. There was an announcement. Yes, there was an announcement. I just wanted to give a general update on, because I know that in a few of the love message readings, I did say that I was going to be getting to all 12 signs in that love message cycle. I have decided that I'm gonna keep it where it's at. It was really obvious with me in the Capricorn love message, the last video that I posted, that just not all sign energies were really leaning in a romantic or love-centered way. And I really don't want to force it. I wanted to experiment with it, have fun with it, and to have that offering for you guys. And I will. As long as I'm called to put out love messages, they will. But it's, as I said in the preface of all of my love messages, that I think on a monthly basis at least, it will only be the sign energy that I'm called to. I'm not going to try to I won't try to cram messages or force messages that aren't fitting and that aren't there. That's just not right as far as like my ethics go. So that's just all I wanted to clarify and update for sure with in the direction of where my videos and messages are going to go. I'm going to start working on the monthlies for November for all 12 signs. So those you'll see from me. Feel free to check out this channel's second home on Instagram. We have a lot of great discussions, and a couple of you have reached out to me on there, and I've really, really enjoyed that. Thank you guys so much. You can get daily affirmations there, additional content, as well as updates on when I will be starting offering personal readings. So stay tuned for that. And I will see you in my next video. To the Light and the Shadows cast. Take care.